Hello everyone, welcome to a first ride on my channel today. This is a first ride on a 2019 BMW 310 GS. Thanks to my good work friend who let me borrow his personal bike to do this first ride review for you guys. So some of the parts you're going to see on this are not factory. This top box is not factory. He's put bigger foot pegs that cover up the factory foot pegs. These crash bars are not factory. Let me think what else here. Skid plate looks to be factory. It is plastic. This windshield is not factory. He's got a phone holder on here. That's not factory either. I think he just put those handguards on there too. This bike does have, turn the key on real quick, does have LED lights all around, which is pretty good for a beginner or beginner adventure bike. Tail light looks very similar, just a little smaller to the one of the big GS. Turn signals are LED as well. No, I'm sorry, they're incandescent. But the headlight and the tail light, the two things that matter the most, are LED. So, that being said, who's this bike intended for? An adventure rider, or new adventure rider, or new rider period. This bike is a 310 single cylinder, fuel injected, liquid cooled, makes 34 horsepower, is a chain final drive with a 6-speed manual gearbox, and do believe it has a slipper clutch as well, which just makes for easier clutch pull and keeps you from locking up the rear tire if you downshift too aggressively. It is a 17-inch rear with a 19-inch front. I'm not sure exactly without looking at the tire, but these are maybe stock. I'm not sure. They are a 150, and that is your width rear, and the front is a 100/80. So, pretty good adventure bike specs. Obviously, you can tell by the top box. It does have a pretty good size rear factory rack to adapt whatever soft luggage or hard luggage like this. Big grab handles for moving the bike around. And for a passenger, because it does have passenger foot pegs. I've rode it only a few minutes over here to this location. And so far so good. I will tell you this though. It's a good bike, but it does feel a little bit more road focused than my 890 Adventure, my 2023, 890 Adventure bike. It does, the riding position is a little more street based, but you know, you can always change stuff on any bike. The bars definitely feel more street bike. Excuse me, but that can be fixed with risers. The pegs feel a little farther forward as well. It does have ABS, and I don't know on this, guys, sorry. I tried to look up a lot of specs on this bike before I rode it. This one does have an ABS button. This is a 2019, like I said. Like the 2022 and up, they did a refresh. I don't think you can disable the ABS on them. I don't know if it just disables the rear on this. I have no idea. Not really comfortable with a bike that I'm not familiar with, and not mind to turn the ABS off to see if it turns it off on the rear or front and back. So if you want to know that, you're going to have to do your own research. But enough talking, let's get riding. You do have a pretty good instrument display on this. You've got a gear indicator, a digital tach at the bottom, miles an hour, range, fuel gauge, and like I said, you got a few pretty good, about killed it already again because I'm not used to clutch pull, but it is a good little bike for what it is. And by the way, it does weigh, trying to remember off the top of my head, 370 pounds. So it's a little bit heavier than a traditional dual sport, but it's an adventure bike. It's not a dual sport. Its competition, a CB500X, is I think about the same weight, maybe even a little bit heavier, but a CB500X is a 500. This is a 310, but the CB500X makes like 45 horsepower and this makes 34. But, you know, for only 34 horsepower, doesn't feel slow. You do have to and this is typical too with single cylinder bikes, you do have to wind it out a little bit more to get it moving. So you have to kind of shift at like 5 to 7,000 to really, like, you know, keep up with traffic and stuff like that. But the bike rides good. It does, I forgot to tell you that in the walk around, it does actually have 7 inches of suspension travel front and rear. Rally Made do have some kits and parts for these. Even though they are cast wheels, you can get spoked wheels for this. So this could be an adventure bike that you could you know, buy stock and kind of grow into and kind of modify and keep it, rather than selling it and upgrading, and, you know, have this as your little adventure bike. Even though you might not ride this as much, even when you get something a little bigger, you can still keep it and you know, maybe take it on some more technical off-road stuff, because it's much lighter than a bigger GS, considerably. Even an 850 GS is probably, if I had to guess, at least 470, 480. So you're talking 100 pounds difference between this and even an 850. And a big GS is like 550 to like almost 600 for the adventure. So that's a big weight difference. It's still a BMW. You get steel braided brake lines here. I'm trying to show you that while I'm riding. It's a little weird. Brakes feel good. They are Bobry front and rear, which is a sister company of Brembo, believe it or not, those who don't know. And it's just, it's you know, like, my friend bought this used and paid I think like $3,500 for it, and this bike has like 2,200 miles. And these bikes, brand new, are still only like, even in today's, you know, inflation, are still only like $5,800. Of course, that's before tax, dealer prep, you know, getting the bike ready, freight, all that stuff. But still could probably be out the door for less than $7,000, and that's about the same price as other bikes in this category. Like a smaller dual sport is about that. So it's more road focused, but let's be honest, a lot of us people who are adventure bike riders don't take them off-road that much unless you come from an off-road background and riding dirt bikes and then get a dual sport just to ride to get to the trail instead of haul it. So I think it would be a good 80-20, you know, 80% street bike and 20% off-road. You know, this bike's light enough that if you were by yourself, as long as you weren't injured, and a pretty decent sized adult, you could probably pick it up pretty easy with not much trouble, versus, especially when you get it loaded up with, you know, to do a trip. This bike could easily do, you know, like a Mid-Atlantic BDR. Maybe not like the Colorado BDR or one of the more aggressive and really like 2-track or single-track BDRs, but it would do just fine on, you know, like I said, on a, you know, the Mid-Atlantic BDR is the one with just really gravel roads. This bike would be perfect for stuff like that. You've got lots of gravel roads, only maybe a little bit like kind of a trail, like an ATV trail, without getting too rough. And if it gets a little rough, just slow down a little bit, slow down the pace. Not a big deal. You know, because if you're being honest, if you've not done adventure riding before, you're not really going to be riding, you know, 45 miles an hour, jumping berms and jumping whoops and stuff. You're not going to be doing that with this kind of bike, and you wouldn't be doing that anyway if you were a fairly new adventure rider, because that's what this bike is kind of for. Or someone who wants something lighter. Maybe someone is, you know, they rode for a long time, for a number of years, and they want something lighter and easier to manage, to toss around. And it just could be an easier bike to live with day to day. You know, it's like my KTM 890 Adventure. It weighs 470. It's on the heavy side, but it's not terrible. But it's 100 pounds difference between that and this. So that's something to think about. You know, is that 100 pounds, you know, are you willing to sacrifice a little bit of creature comforts and a little less power? You know, you just have to decide that for yourself. But I think the bike's a really good bike, especially out in the used market. You know, not much money. You could learn to ride off-road and learn adventure riding on this and not, you know, worry about dropping a $10,000 plus adventure bike, and it'd be not that much of a deal. But the little bike just goes around curves, really nice. The brakes are a little on the soft side, but that's okay. That helps new riders off-road, where you don't have such a sharp initial bite of brakes. that's not a big deal. It just means they're a little more progressive and not as sharp as, like a Brembo 320 mil dual front disc caliper, which, by the way, this bike, if you didn't see on the walk around, my bad. Bad host here, is a single front disc, front and rear. But, and for a single cylinder, it's pretty smooth too. Like, I had it up on a little bit of like a 4-lane highway doing 55 or 60, taking like $6,000, and a little bit of vibration, but very minimal, especially for a single cylinder. Nothing like KLR vibes at that speed at all, nowhere near. And gearbox is really slick. The clutch pull is super lightweight, but you actually, trying to look here, I didn't know if they're adjustable there or not. I think the newer generation on this got a few updates, and that was one of them. They come with adjustable levers for the clutch and the front brake, but not a deal breaker. You could always put something like that on there if you really wanted something adjustable, but by the time you adjust it, I'm being honest, both of my bikes that I have at home both have that, and once you get them adjusted for you're not going to touch them again. You may adjust them a little bit with different gloves on or something like that, but once you get adjusted, they're there, and I don't think they make that much difference unless you have really, really short fingers and have a hard time reaching, pulling in the clutch or hitting the brake. I don't think it makes that much difference, to be honest. But it's just a good little motorcycle. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's super lightweight. The seat height too, sorry, I meant to say that also on the walk around, is like 32.7. So it is on the higher side for some bikes, but like for reference, my KTM 890 base model, the non-R model, is a seat height of like 33.8 inches. So, it's almost at 34, where this is almost at 33. So about an inch difference. Totally doable. I'm 5'10" with a 32-inch inseam, and I was flat footing it with a slight bend in my knee, without really even trying very hard. And it's easy to throw your leg over at that low of a seat height too. That's another thing. It kind of helps. You don't have to do necessarily, if you're like, say 5'7" or above, you don't necessarily have to do that leg stand on the peg adventure bike thing where it looks like you're getting on a horse. That a lot of people they do, and they get used to it, but a lot of people aren't comfortable with it. I don't do that even on my bike. It's just something weird about standing on the peg with the kickstand down. Just kind of makes me cringe, like, oh. I do get off the bike a little bit, but not getting on it as much. But it's a good little bike. Like, even look, I'm probably should shift down. I was about to say, pretty good torque, fifth gear, 40 miles an hour. I was like, yeah, I should probably shift down. I don't think I like that too much. But like I said, as long as you shift in the $5,000 to $7,000 to $8,000 range, it will move on pretty good and keep up with traffic pretty well. It gets good gas mileage. Does, however, take 93 octane, I'm pretty sure. My friend that I borrowed this from said he's getting in the middle 60s with riding it pretty aggressively, like a normal person would if you had a bike like this once you got used to it. So mid 60s, that's pretty good. Gas mileage. This is like a really good commuter. It'll do interstate speeds, 70, 80 miles an hour pretty easy, I'm sure. But we're not going to be getting that up today because we're just on the back road, just having fun and seeing what the bike's like. Like I said, I did get the bike up 55, 60, and it was on 6th gear, and it did that really with ease, just cruising without pushing it hard at all. So I imagine, if you live somewhere like out west, like California, Arizona, it would probably, where your interstates are higher, I would think it would do 80, 85 pretty easy commuting. Would you want to do that for 2 or 3 hours on it? Yeah, maybe not. But that's just kind of like, you have to make your mind up. You want this as a touring bike or a commuting adventure bike? Because adventure bikes are really good at commuting, and like back road touring and stuff like that, more than on the interstate. But the windshield too, this windshield is doing a really good job. Like, at this speed, most of the air is off my chest, and it's hitting like the top part of my chest, like the last couple inches, and then clean air in my helmet. So I don't know what windshield it is, but it's not stock. Stock, they're way down here. More like a KTM Adventure or Windshield, where they're really short. But I have no complaints about the bike. It's just it's a good little motorcycle. It really really does well and is easy to ride. It was a little weird for me at first because, I wasn't used to it, but after 5 or 10 minutes on it, pretty good. I like it. Good little adventure bike, like I said, for a beginner or just a beginner rider in general, or anyone new to riding adventure bikes. That's what I mean. But it's a good little motorcycle. We'll get up a little highway run here, a little bit, not too bad. It is a little bit windy and a little bit overcast, so the audio on this isn't the greatest. My apologies. But, a little bit of road debris there. But, there's 50 miles an hour, 6 gear, 5,000 RPM, very minimum vibration. Wind management, pretty good. Not bad at all. Probably a little bit better than my KTM, which is not saying much because, let's face it, KTMs are, ready to race. But I like it. I think it'll be a good bike for most people looking in the small adventure bike category. Like I said, especially these bikes on the used market. You get one 3 or 4 years old. These can be had for, say, $3,500, $4,500 ish, somewhere in there, maybe $5,000, depending on how much somebody might owe on it. If it's fairly new, you just have to kind of wait and see. But on that, guys, if you've not already done so, please like, share, and subscribe. Ride safe and have fun. We'll see you on the next one. See ya.